This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Welcome to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Ben Lynch. This is part 2 of a 3-part series that we're doing on scripting. You can use scripting with your admin and your practitioners. In fact, I'd encourage you to have scripts or communication frameworks set up for admin and practitioners. In the first episode, we covered some of the reasons why scripting is important for your team and for your clients. It has some incredible impacts on the consistency of service delivery and then therefore the experience that your patients have. We're going to cover now the how. How do you actually implement this successfully in the short term and then sustain it in the long term? Because if I've heard anything from the clinic owners out there is that they've tried it and it didn't really catch on. They weren't accountable to it and it doesn't continue on to this day. So I'm going to give you a framework that I found works really well. Now, the caveat being, for it to work really well, it takes a lot of work. I'm not going to deny that. If you want to set this up really well and have it humming along, it takes a lot of work. My approach has always been, how long are you going to be in business for? And if it's not the next 5 minutes, I think all good things deserve the time, effort, and energy. I think your clients deserve it. I think your team would appreciate it, having this level of consistency brought to the way that they practice, all while still giving them the freedom and the flexibility to approach clinical treatment the way that they would like to, just giving some parameters around it. So this is about the how. Again, how can we help implement scripting or communication frameworks more successfully? Imagine a triangle in front of you. At the base or the bottom of that triangle, I call that the physiology or the why. If we use the great work of Simon Sinek, watch that TED Talk, it's the why, how, what. So I believe at the base of this triangle, we have the why, which is the physiology. Why do we do anything? Well, it's based on the physiology of the body. We're actually trying to help someone's body function differently, condition it in a new way. So the physiology, and you can literally draw this out. In fact, I'd encourage you to do something like this. There are 3 elements about the physiology that I consider here that are important, again, to that overall objective of setting up scripting frameworks or communication frameworks within your clinic. The first element is looking at what are the true healing cycles within the tissues, the systems, the areas of the body that you work with. How long does it actually take them to be reconditioned, to transform, to heal and improve? If we map that out, what is the natural journey or course of that happening over a specific time period? If there's any retort that's most common is that the team members say, well, this is too prescriptive, it doesn't follow the natural course of the body's healing journey, or is this evidence-based? So I always want to start there. Let's start with the physiology and look at that. The second element of 3 here is around the habits and routines and the timeline that it actually takes for someone to be reconditioned in their habits and routines and form the correct associations they need to instill a habit or routine, because often we're giving them exercises or home habits or routines or things that they can do to help themselves. So how long does that typically take? Map that out on the same timeline. The third element here is around how long does it take for belief systems to transform? And that might be more of a reflection of your education period of when you get a new client, how you actually help them understand their body or problem, how you actually help them make some changes in their beliefs so that they can ultimately improve for the long term and sustain a new, healthier lifestyle. So literally map them out on a timeline. That is the base of the triangle. It is the physiology. It is the why we do what we do. Then move around the triangle in a clockwise fashion up the side. I then go to the how. How do we then apply this, which I call the philosophy? There are three elements that I feel make up this philosophy section. The first is your experience. Over time, you see various patterns of people, of problems or conditions, of improvement journeys. So your experience is the glue that brings it all together. You then also package that with the evidence-based best practices, and this relates to interventions. Perhaps the treatment modalities or methods or techniques that you use to actually intervene and help that person get better, whatever it may be. It's using what is evidence-based and pairing that up with your experience as well, because we know there are often still some gaps left in the evidence. So your experience of seeing various patterns tied together with the evidence-based practice helps you bring it together in a framework of treatment that you can prescribe someone. To layer onto this, the third element of the philosophy here is what I call the Fred Hollows factor. If you don't know Fred Hollows, he's an ophthalmologist that did a lot of great work in developing countries like Cambodia. And there's one particular moment on a film where Fred's sitting next to a young boy in Cambodia, and he says, whether you're treating this young boy here or the Queen of England, they deserve the same care. Perhaps this is a line of thinking and approach you've taken with your team previously when looking at getting some consistency in how we might literally take care or treat our patients. Most commonly, you'll say something along the lines of, imagine this was your mother, your brother, your sister who was coming in here. What would you prescribe them to get them better, give them the absolute best? Or imagine if this was an elite athlete, what would you do for them to get them better? Without judgment of what they're wearing or what we think they can afford in time, money, or resources in terms of getting better, but rather start with the best recommendation first, and then you can accommodate any logistics moving forward from there. That then ties all of the how or philosophy together. That is kind of the glue of how you apply things. If we then move around again clockwise on that triangle, we're looking at the chronology or the what. What are we now going to do? What and when? So this is the timeline of what is done. Literally in a sequence order, what are you going to do for any particular condition or presentation that you see? Because everyone is different, but I'm sure there are fundamentals that you have that you deliver so that you get the best possible chance of the ultimate outcome for the patients that you see. So literally then now plotting out on that timeline what is done in a sequence order. We then move on to when is it done? We look at the spacing between what is done. So it might be a couple of days, it might be a couple of weeks, it might be a couple of months. So getting very specific on when are we doing these interventions? When are we having these conversations with our team? This is the chronology. The third element here is where is it done? Is this something for them to do in an appointment with you? Is it a class? Is it something they do at home? Is this something they could do at work or on a commute or when they're at sport or with a various group or club or association? Where is it then going to be done for that particular patient? So you can see we've really mapped out now the why, how, and what. The why being the physiology, the things that really underpin the body changing and transforming to get that true healing, that reconditioning. We then moved on to the philosophy, which is how you then apply what you know about the best evidenced interventions based on your experience of also what to do for any particular problem or patient. And then adding in that layer of the Fred Hollows factor or the care. Imagine if you gave the best possible recommendation right from the start to every person and then accommodated logistics. We then moved on to the chronology. What do you do and when do you do it? Literally on a timeline. When are the appointments? When are the interventions done? And where are they performed as well for that patient? And now we've started to build out a map of how we care for our patients. And this is central to actually having scripts even be successful in the first instance, let alone be sustained long term. So you have to get this in play, and it seems like a lot of work, and I said that at the top, but it's very worthwhile to do. So think of that triangle, draw it out, and then go through this process with your team in mapping it out. We're then, in the third episode, going to work out, once you've started to develop your scripts, how do you actually make sure that they are done properly, they're done consistently, and that they are sustained? There are some 1%ers I'm going to share with you that are so key to this being a success. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast, and please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.